The inspiration of a rose in art, fabric, and at home. Roses, coming up next on Rachel Ashwell's Shabby Chic. Rachel Ashwell's Shabby Chic celebrates the rose. The legendary flower's dramatic combination of beauty and fragrance has given it such universal appeal that the rose is portrayed in the art of virtually every culture. Roses are a quintessential element of shabby chic. As a design element in fabrics, accessories, and furniture, the rose is a recurring shabby chic motif. For Rachel, the rose is a preeminent source of inspiration and beauty in the home. It all begins with the flower itself.
Nothing is quite as wonderful in your home as having fresh roses like these. The fragrance alone is just something that's so delicious, and of course the whole evolution of having fresh flowers from the stage of the bud through the opening, and then even as they start to droop, nothing's quite as lovely. However, what's still pretty enjoyable is finding some lovely old paintings, because I really enjoy the whole process of knowing that this piece has taken quite a long time to paint, and the very nature of working with oil painting, it takes a while to dry. And I enjoy having pieces in my house that I feel that someone has really taken the time to work on them.
Christie Repasy's paintings reflect Rachel's high standards. Christie's attention to detail and masterful use of color has paid off in a collection of work whose beauty seems timeless. Like Rachel, Christie prefers the paintings focus on just the flowers themselves. Once Christie has arranged the roses into a pattern that pleases her, she begins by preparing the canvas.
The first thing I do when I approach a plain canvas is to do a tonal wash of a muted gray color. And then the second thing that I do is I begin to sketch out the composition in shapes. I would take the shapes of the roses and the branches and the leaves and develop some kind of a composition on the canvas.
Even at this early stage, the painting appeals to Rachel's sense of form.
This is called an underpinning.
Oh, I love that just in itself. I think it's really beautiful.
Yeah, these are nice to do. They give you structure to build your painting from.
The oil paint is carefully applied in layers. Initially, broad areas of light and shadow are blocked out.
You put in your dark areas first, and from the dark areas you build out into your shadow areas, and then into your lighter areas go on last.
In Shabby Chic, the process is as important as the finished work.
I'm in my own little world, approaching the painting and bringing it out the way that my inspirations want me to. So it's very much like a sanctuary. It's very peaceful.
This feeling is conveyed in the painting, and Christie feels it's what attracts the clients who collect her art.
Some of the clients have expressed that they feel a sense of peace and serenity with the rose paintings in their homes. I think they enjoy the different colors and bringing the garden indoors.
Rachel shares Christie's preference for a muted color palette of pale tones.
You know, I don't see a lot of red roses here or a lot of yellow roses.
I think the demand for the pale rose is real high right now, and it's really been a challenge to me to try to paint and emulate the softer roses, learning new colors, new tones, new shadow colors.
The paintings, with their pale, refined roses, entice Rachel to speculate about their possible history.
My assumption of why I like the pale colours is because, one, it either means it's very, very old and it's faded to that from something that was stronger, or that many years ago, 100 years ago, there weren't all these different brightly coloured roses that there are now.
Right. Looking back in my flower painting books or gardening books, it seems like they had more of abundance of the white roses and the pale pinks, and so I've kind of come to that conclusion just in my own imagination.
Well, hopefully we're right. Hopefully we're right. Well, your work is lovely, and
Thank you.
I think they're just beautiful.
Whatever their past, their beauty ensures that roses and paintings of roses will always play an eloquent role in Shabby Chic. Next, simple frames, floral fabrics, and romantic roses, when Rachel Ashwell's Shabby Chic continues. Rachel Ashwell's Shabby Chic continues with displaying rose paintings. Sometimes all that's needed is the painting itself.
This is the end result of the piece of work that we followed Christie begin on, everything from blocking out to choosing the colours. And I think it came out really very nicely. I don't even feel it needs a frame. I think putting a frame on it would just make it too fussy and too frilly. So I think I'm just going to let this one be just as it is, and then as time goes on and some crackle comes about and some natural patina just kind of mellows it all together, then maybe at that time I'll give it a frame. But until then, this is a perfect example of, to me, a piece of art that just doesn't need a frame at all.
For most paintings, however, a good frame provides the best setting to showcase their beauty. Even if only a part of a painting can be salvaged, the right frame makes it a work of art.
Like, for example, this little tin one over here. This was a painting that possibly the rest of the painting was maybe ruined, maybe it had holes, maybe it just wasn't something that was usable in its full force. However, just by saving a little portion of it and then using this old metal or old tin tile, was able to salvage the painting and make a lovely little piece.
Rescuing the best part is not only the key to good paintings, but good frames as well.
These two down here as well are old tin tiles that are salvaged from just old buildings, ballrooms, hotels, that kind of thing. And what's so nice about them is you do get real unique, different patinas of the tiles. And of course it's just a very nice way to offset something that's a bit vibrant in the art itself.
Other found objects can be transformed into suitable frames as well.
Now, a couple of other things that have kind of come about in recent times is framing pieces, specifically oil paintings, in what's called old architectural scraps of wood. They're all kind of skirting boards, sometimes they're ceiling mouldings, and usually they are used, as in the case of this for example, in oil paintings.
As this type of frame can be costly, Rachel suggests saving it for a painting worth the expense.
I haven't hung on to a lot of paintings in my travels, but this one I have, and what I love about this particular painting is oil. The canvas is really quite thin now, so you do have to be careful with it. But what I love about it again is the colouring, obviously, is very shabby chic. But more importantly, it's just the whole flow of the flowers. There's no structure to it, there's no vase, there's no nothing to it, just other than these lovely flowers were just plopped on somebody's table to paint. And so it's very peaceful to me, this piece. And the frame itself, I think, again, because of the patina of the wood and just the simplicity of the wood, is a nice background. It's a nice way to just offset this type of artwork.
Small flaws in this frame make it all the more appropriate for the painting.
What's nice about this piece is the fact that the painting itself has predominantly got lots of greens going on and all the peely paint. It kind of ties in without being too mix and matchy. You've got some green coming through here, some grey coming through here, which obviously just picks up nicely with the piece of art.
When the existing frame does work, stay with it, even if it isn't perfect.
I would never remove this from the frame, just because to me the frame is perfect. The fact that it's got these little broken areas is not a problem. It just makes the whole thing full of character. And it's a fine line for me. Like, for example, with the same background, if it had red roses, it would be something that would be dreary for me. But very much so, the fact that these flowers are lovely and pale is what enables this to still speak to me in a very kind of cheerful way.
Rachel loves the quiet, delicate qualities of this small pastel painting. She makes sure the framework reflects this simplicity.
Everything about this, from this rather plain matting that's used around the painting, and then this completely nothing gold frame, it's just all very, very appealing to me. And even in the back side of it, you know, I like the way that it's back, this rather simple piece of wood. I've left the price tag on. That to me is something that sometimes I do just so that from time to time, if I just want to remind myself of the value of something, there it is. And you know, even this rather ratty wire, providing it's safe and it does its job, I definitely keep all these kind of qualities rather than try and replace them.
Rachel prefers to protect the subtle beauty of these paintings by keeping them in their original frames for as long as possible.
It truly is falling out of its frame, and certainly I could go to the expense of getting a new frame done, but to me, for as long as it's going to last in this falling apart frame, I'm going to keep it in here because it's a perfect size. And even the fact that it's got these little cracks, again, to me that's character. And certainly a lot of people today are making reproduction frames just to try and give the paintings the kind of the backing that they need. So certainly if I can salvage this original distressed painting, certainly I will.
Though it may involve a bit of work, the effort to acquire a shabby chic rose painting and match it up with the right frame is a rewarding one.
So as hard as they are to find these lovely paintings with their frames, it very much is worth to continue that search and to just always keep your eyes open. Because certainly whether it's adding just that little bit of colour that your room might need, or bringing the outside in, or maybe just tying up some other floral themes that you have in your room, it's really a nice quiet way to complete the decoration of a room.
Next, roses from the flea market and roses for the bedroom, when Rachel Ashwell's Shabby Chic continues. Rachel Ashwell's Shabby Chic continues with rose and floral fabrics.
There would be no Shabby Chic without a flower. And to me, to just keep that continuing search for just flowers, flowers, flowers is something that I thoroughly enjoy looking for all the time. I'm always looking, and they're the biggest inspiration for me to then add to my fabrics that then of course become slipcovers or bedding or whatever application.
During her flea market trips, Rachel has come upon many rose patterns. She has been inspired by all of them to create her special Shabby Chic floral fabrics. With a little modification, this old wallpaper became a pattern for one of Rachel's fabrics.
The colours are just absolutely right up my alley. The pinks and the greens, and a little bit of taupe in here. The actual size of this artwork for my needs, because a lot of my fabrics do go into bedding, I didn't want such a big pattern, or a big repeat as it's called. And so what I did with an artist was we actually pretty much copied that exactly, but we shrunk it down and just changed a few little leaves. This was born from that piece of wallpaper, and it's such fun to me to see something kind of being reborn.
This vintage strip of fabric, with a little reinterpretation, was transformed into a modern Shabby Chic material.
Now, I was drawn to this particular piece of fabric, not just because the colours were so pretty. To my eye, how the actual detailing, this obviously had many, many screens, but just because of the fineness of the drawings, the fineness of the printing, and to me that says age, it says something that really was probably turn of the century. Now, even though I particularly love these colours, what I wanted to do with this was, and what inspired me, was to still keep the fineness of how it's all been put together, but just to use slightly more contemporary colours.
Rachel discovered that by changing the base color, she can construct a fresh expression.
This is the same fabric, same pattern, same everything, but just in a completely different colorway.
Even forgotten treasures serve as inspiration for Rachel's floral fabrics.
This was a sewing bag that I actually did find at a flea market. And when I found it, I knew that its days were numbered as an actual sewing bag because it was pretty weak. But still, I picked this up actually for a fabric inspiration. And I always knew that it needed to be a little bit bolder than this. I knew that I wanted my fabric to be a little bit stronger than this.
Rachel next created the artwork for the design by using watercolors.
And this is actually what the artwork looks like that goes with this particular bag. Now, the colours are as odd as they are because the person that's going to get this is the person that's going to cut the screens. For each different colour for a pattern, you need a screen cut. Then you choose your colours, and in my case, like I said, I just wanted something that was a little bolder than what we have in the sewing bag.
Rachel's fabrics are silk screened, and it's during this process that her visions come to life. Rachel's artwork is first sent to a silk screening studio, where it is traced onto a clear acetate film. Each color is printed on a separate layer. A silk screen is stretched over a wooden frame, and then a photographic process transfers the image onto the silk screen. The silk screen contains tiny holes where ink will seep through to saturate the fabric. Fabric is laid out and fastened to long tables, ready to be saturated. Workers manually squeegee ink over the screen onto the fabric, adding color to the textile through the small holes in the screen. After the entire table is printed with the first color and has dried, the screen is changed and the next color is applied. The end result is a beautiful fabric rich in color and texture, inspired by flowers. As for the fabric inspired by the sewing bag, Rachel was pleased with the outcome of her design.
And this was the end result. And I've actually called it watermark because, again, The fabric that is on this sewing bag originally, I think very much had a watermark feeling. And there you go. That's how that fabric was born.
For Rachel, roses will always be a part of shabby chic design.
For me, my love is my flowers, and I will just continue my search and continue feeling it's a privilege for me just to be able to let that be my inspiration for my work.
Next, romantic roses for the bedroom, quiet roses for the hallway, and confident roses for the living room, when Rachel Ashwell's Shabby Chic continues. Rachel Ashwell's Shabby Chic continues with decorating with roses. Many people love the floral shabby chic style, yet aren't quite sure how to achieve it. For Rachel, less is more.
It's always so lovely for me to see a room that really does have the shabby chic style done just the way I like it, which is really about just not going too over the top with it and to letting the beauty be very subtle rather than throwing it in your face, because shabby chic really is about a casual elegance that is kind of flexible and subtle and little secret treasures.
Using many of the paintings and fabrics we've seen, Rachel shows it's not difficult to enhance the shabby chic style of any room with roses. The bedroom is a natural setting for a romantic floral theme.
The bedroom has its little decorative gestures of roses, whether it be fresh flowers or again the bedding itself, and therefore it does make complete sense to have some floral paintings in here too. So I opted to put the yellow oil painting in the architectural frame over the fire mantle. The crackle of the frame ties in with the fire mantle, but also the yellow is also a nice change from the bedding. And then I've also decided to put the very small tin frame painting also in there. Again, anything more than that would be too much. It's not a very large room.
Roses are also a subtle way to add shabby chic beauty to forgotten spaces like hallways.
I find that I spend as much time in my hallways as I do in my bedrooms or in my living rooms. Therefore, it shouldn't be a forgotten space, and that's why in the case here I've chosen to put a watercolour in the hallway, because it's quiet, but it's still beautiful in its little flaky frame and its nice subject matter. And then the same for this pastel.
A spare room with a collection of varying textures, from a Roman column, an antique crib, and a stone floor, provides a wonderful backdrop for a delicate rose painting.
This room to me is all about textures, patina, and just interesting items. It's the perfect place to put the painting that has its original frame. It's the lovely kind of dark but still very muted pale pink rose painting that has its original frame, and the fact that it's just a little bit cracked around the edges is completely perfect for this room.
Roses in the dining room may seem an obvious choice, but Rachel takes a fresh approach.
There are some times where I just want the flowers, the roses in themselves, to just have a wonderful stage so that that's all that the table really is about. So what I do in those times is to just have like what I have here, which is just plain simple white china and plain lovely white linen. Nice little bit of very simple lacework, nothing too over the top. And then I'm able to just be able to have this really lovely platform to have my flowers shown off.
These specially treated roses have been freeze-dried.
To look at, you wouldn't even know that that wasn't actually a fresh rose. But what's nice about it is, with this process, it really does last for quite some time, probably up to a year.
Freeze-dried petals, available through the internet, won't stain table linens. They're perfect for a decorative touch.
I always just like to add a little bit of humour, and so we're just going to put them really on the edges of the table so they don't get in the way of people's food. No one's going to land up eating these, but certainly it's a very pretty, whimsical way of just doing that final bit of decoration.
Finally, in the living room, Rachel makes sure that there are several strong pieces to establish the rose decor.
There's a few items that really do command attention and do command a focus, like for example the placement of this painting. It's lovely, it's large, it's quite loud, and it says, "Here I am." And that also goes again for the floral painting that's over there. There's nothing about it that isn't saying, "Please look at me, I'm really lovely."
Once the main theme of roses has been clearly stated, it's important to balance the rest of the room's decor with more understated touches.
And there's other choices in this room that really do allow for their beauty to just be very softly spoken. For example, this slip-covered chair here. Once upon a time, the pattern on it was probably quite bold and quite strong, but the fact that it's obviously been put through the washing machine many a time, it's barely there.
Even shabby chic colors, like this signature pink floral pattern, are used sparingly.
The very fact that there's just one piece of furniture in here that has that lovely colour is absolutely plenty for me. And then of course the biggest piece in the room is just the nice cream, which is just a nice background piece. So there's just a nice balance. One rather lovely brightish piece, plain piece, and then one piece that's barely there anymore.
The secret to a floral living room that appeals to men as well as women is a restrained approach.
For example, this table, at first glance, it's just a kind of somewhat rusted white painted table, but if you look closely, under here and here, you do see these lovely little subtle floral pieces. Same over here, shell collection. At first glance, you could just think, oh, pile of shells. But in fact, there's 3 here that are actually shells put together in a formation of a flower. So it's within a shell collection, but it's still floral.
Every application of the rose motif is carefully chosen to combine harmoniously with the rest.
So all of these little subliminal items, they all make up to a very understated elegance, a casual elegance. It's that floral theme, but it's not in your face. It's very subtle, and to me that's why this room works.
One final detail illustrates it best.
And I would say the little final accent in here that is so quiet but so beautiful is over there. It's a little round table, and all it has on it is a teeny weeny little flower. It wants nothing more, no candles, no linen, no nothing. Just the fact that it's there, it's quiet, it's beautiful. That is shabby chic quintessential.